Shabbat Shalom. Today, Erev Shabbat Parshat Chukas Balak is actually a sad day in the annals of Jewish history. On this day, in the year 1244, 24 cartloads of precious manuscripts of the Talmud, Medrash, Bavli, Yerushalmi, were all consigned to the flames in the Place Vendôme in Paris, France. Overnight, the Jews of France were deprived of their holy patrimony. At the time, the citizens of Paris laughed at the spectacle of Jews meticulously collecting the ashes of the books of their heritage and burying them in their cemeteries as if they were ashes of human beings. Such is the relationship of Jews to their holy books. Such is the relationship to our history, an event that took place almost 800 years ago is still observed today. In memory of that sad event, Jews the world over recite to this day the elegy of Sha'ali Serufa, penned by the famous Tosafist, the Maharam of Rothenburg, and we recite it each and every day, each and every year on Tisha B'Av. Many Jews also fast on Erev Shabbat, Parshat Chukat, and there is an annual remembrance of this event today, each year in Paris. As sad as this event is, it should be noted that at the same time, there was perhaps a recognizable miracle coming out of this event. The miracle of the utter failure of the perpetrators behind this dastardly act. Not only did no Jews convert as a result of this burning, but the Talmud continued to thrive in other lands. And despite many future attempts to destroy our books, our legacy, in Germany, Italy, Austria, many other lands, the Talmud miraculously survives and thrives to this very day. To quote a verse from our Parsha, it will be said of Israel and Jacob, Ma Pa'al Hashem, what hath God wrought? How was it possible? How could it be? All seemed finished. The people themselves were overwhelmed with gloom and pessimism. And yet, Mapa al Hashem, what hath God wrought? We survive today. In a beautiful, actual historical event, beautiful in the sense that the lesson that was derived from this. In the days of Tsar Alexander III, a terrible anti-Semitic promulgation was about to be decreed. The author of these accusations was the confidant and advisor to the Tsar, a man by the name of Konstantin Probdiadonetsev, as we say in Hebrew, Yamach Shemo v'zichro, may his name be blotted out. He was an infamous anti-Semite who in 1881 proposed and worked toward a classic solution to the Jewish problem. Namely, his idea was 1/3 of the Jews of Russia needed to emigrate. 1/3 should be baptized, and 1/3 starved to death. At this time, there was a court Jew in the Tsar's arena, a fellow by the name of Baron Ginsburg, a secular yet sympathetic Jew, convinced the Tsar that a delegation of distinguished rabbis ought to meet with the Minister of Interior in order to mollify the Tsar and perhaps modify his decree. The minister also invited Probidonotsev to join him during the discussions. After the rabbis gave an impassioned plea, the anti-Semite turned to the Minister of Interior and said, "I believe that everything in the world has a purpose, a use, a function. I can understand what reason there is for God having created mosquitoes, horses, cockroaches. There is one thing, however, which I do not understand. Why did God create Jews? They are a people who are of no use. They are parasites, a blight and a disease upon the face of the earth." The minister, who was already an anti-Semite, said that he was convinced by the powerful arguments of Mr. Probidonotsev, and therefore the meeting has concluded. As you can imagine, the rabbis who were there were left sorely depressed and in deep gloom. As they filed out, only one of them was smiling. The famous Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan Spector of Kovna, the rabbi, by the way, whose name emblazons Yeshiva University, Rabbi Isaac Elchanan. His colleagues turned to him and asked him, "What's the reason for this happy mood after such a calamitous interview?" He answered to them, "You don't understand. Now that we have gone through this, I know that the redemption cannot be far off, that soon we will prosper. How do I know? Because we have just experienced the fulfillment of the verse in our Parsha. Ke'et ya'omer liYaakov liYisrael, ma pa'al Hashem. That of this time it has been said concerning Jacob and Israel, what hath God wrought? Meaning, why did he create this people, which is apparently so useless and purposeless? We have seen today supposed human beings who actually question whether we have any right to exist at all. Hence, the time cannot be far off that the next verse in the parasha will also come true. Hein am kelavi yakum ucha'ari yisnasa. Behold, a people that riseth up like a lioness, and as a lion doth he lift himself. Just as one verse follows the other, so too will the redemption and the strength of Israel follow the humiliation to which we are now subjected. It's worth pointing out that only a few years after this sad event, the first Zionist Congress met in Basel, Switzerland, under the auspices of Theodor Herzl. We ought to recall that principle of faith in the divine love during these tense and uncertain days which were now upon us. The future is so uncertain for the entire world, not only just us. Will things ever get back to normal, as we remember normal as it was? And Amir Hashem, when they do return, will we have learned the appropriate lessons from it? The value of community, the value of daily minyan, the true preciousness of human life. But we must know and invigorate our bitachon, our faith, that we will emerge yet stronger from all this turmoil, and that in the final analysis, Israel, both the state and the people of Israel, wherever they may be, will be such as to elicit from the entire world the admiring statement, Ma Pa'al Hashem, what hath God wrought? Shabbat Shalom.